Ibinabo was a young girl living in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. She came from an extremely wealthy family and her parents adored her. They lived a life filled with luxury, joy and laughter. But despite their wealth, Ibinabo carried a rare autoimmune disease that made her very obese with a foul body odor. Although her parents knew about her condition, no one else did. The outside world saw only her appearance, and that was enough to make her a target for ridicule. In school, Ibinabo was ostracized. The expensive private school she attended was filled with children from other rich families, but none of them wanted to associate with her. They mocked her, making faces and sounds of disgust whenever she passed by. Even the few friends she had were there only because she showered them with gifts which her parents generously funded. They did not defend her whenever she was being made fun of, nor did they offer her any true companionship. Ibinabo's father, High Chief Dagogo, a kind and loving man who also owned a conglomerate of companies and several estates, suddenly fell ill. Despite the best medical care that money could buy, he passed away after several agonizing months. The joy in their household was extinguished, and the once vibrant home became somber and cold. Ibinabo and her mother were devastated. After the funeral, they had to face a new reality without the man who had held their world together. But they had no idea that a final surprise awaited them: her father's will. On the day it was read, Ibinabo, her mother and a few stakeholders gathered, bracing themselves for what they might hear. The lawyer's voice was steady as he began to read the document. The room fell silent as the lawyer's voice echoed through the air. On the event of my death, he began, all my estates, companies, and everything I own will be transferred to my beloved daughter Ibinabo. A collective gasp filled the room. Ibinabo's heart pounded in her chest, but the lawyer wasn't finished. There is, however, a condition attached to this inheritance, he continued. Because I know how much she desired for her mother and me to have more children so that she would have siblings, I have given her a task. She must carefully select and adopt a girl and a boy who will become her siblings, friends and peers, people whom she can trust. They will inherit 10% each of what is now her estate. Only then will her inheritance become valid. I know my daughter is wise and will make the right decision. The room was thrown into shock. Ibinabo's mother squeezed her hand tightly, both of them reeling from the unexpected twist. The weight of her father's last wish bore heavily on Ibinabo's shoulders. It wasn't just about the wealth. It was about fulfilling a dream she had shared with her father, and doing so in a way would honor his memory. Ibinabo took a deep breath. I will do it, Mommy, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. I will find the right people to be my siblings, just like Daddy wanted. Her mother nodded, though worry flickered in her eyes. But how, Ibinabo? Where will you find them? Ibinabo thought for days. Her mind raced each time she pondered about the task ahead of her. Finally, she came up with a suitable plan which she shared with her mother. I will go to Grandma's village, she said suddenly. I will live there for a year as a poor girl. No one will know who I really am. I will find out who cares for me despite my appearance. Those will be the ones I will bring into our family. Ibinabo's mother was hesitant. She had never taken Ibinabo to the village, fearing the hardships of such a life for her daughter who had only known luxury. But Ibinabo was resolute. "Mother, it is the only way. If I stay here, I would never know who truly cares for me," she argued. Her mother sighed deeply. "I understand, my child, but you have never lived without comfort. How will you manage? What if something happens to you?" "I will be fine, mommy. I will be with grandma and I know she will take care of me," Ibinabo reassured her. After much discussion, her mother agreed. They both packed Ibinabo's things and her mother made sure to include only the bare essentials. The next day, they drove to the village of Abonema, a place Ibinabo had only heard stories about. When they arrived, Ibinabo was taken aback by the sight of the small run-down houses and dusty roads. The villagers stared at her as she and her mother made their way to her grandmother's house. Their faces twisted in disgust at her appearance. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. Was she really ready for this? But she quickly pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself of her mission. Her grandmother, a frail but lively old woman, welcomed them with open arms. "My dear Ibinabo," she said, hugging her tightly, "I am so happy that you are here." Ibinabo smiled. "I am glad to be here, Grandma. I am ready to start this new life." As her mother prepared to leave, she pulled Ibinabo aside. "Be strong, my child," she whispered. "Remember why you are doing this." After a final hug, she returned to the city, leaving Ibinabo to her new reality. Life in the village was harder than Ibinabo had imagined. The first few days were the toughest as she adjusted to the simplicity and harshness of rural life. Gone were the days of servants tending to her every need. Now she had to fetch water from the stream, sweep the compound, and help her grandmother with cooking. Ibinabo's first challenge came with school. The community secondary school was nothing like her previous school. The building was old, with broken windows and creaky wooden desks. When she walked into the classroom on her first day, the students recoiled in disgust, some covering their noses, while others whispered cruel remarks. "Look at her. She is so fat and ugly," one girl sneered, loud enough for Ibinabo to hear. "Can you smell that? It's like something died," another boy exclaimed with a gagging motion. Ibinabo's heart sank, but she kept her head high. She had expected this. She had faced worse in her old school, but it still hurt deeply. She took a seat at the back of the class where no one else was sitting and tried to focus on the lesson, but the sneers and side glances never stopped. Despite the cruelty, Ibinabo excelled in her studies. She was bright and answered questions with ease, which only seemed to annoy her classmates more. They could not understand how someone they considered so disgusting could be so smart. At home, Ibinabo shared her experiences with her grandmother, who listened patiently. "Do not let them get to you, my dear," her grandmother advised. "Remember, you are here for a reason. Just focus on that and let the rest fall into place." Ibinabo nodded, though tears welled in her eyes. She was not sure how much more she could take. One day at school during the break, as Ibinabo strolled round the school field alone in her usual fashion just to get some fresh air, she heard a commotion behind her. She turned to see a group of students running towards her, jeering and making spiteful comments at her. Fear gripped her heart as she quickened her pace, but they were relentless. "Leave me alone," she cried, but her plea only fueled their cruelty. Suddenly, a girl from a higher class rushed towards the group with a large stick, swinging it wildly. "Get away from here," she shouted, chasing them off. Ibinabo watched in shock but relief as the bullies scattered, unwilling to face the wrath of the older girl. Once they were gone, the girl turned to Ibinabo with a kind smile. "Are you okay?" Ibinabo nodded, wiping the few tears that had welled up in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "My name is Ebiere," the girl said, extending her hand. "I have seen how they treat you. It is not right." Ibinabo hesitated, then took her hand, grateful for the first act of kindness she had received since coming to the village. "I am Ibinabo. It is nice to meet you." Ebiere smiled warmly. "I live with my mother. She is a widow and we have a small farm. I help her after school." Ibinabo felt a connection with Ebiere instantly. There was something genuine in her eyes, something that made Ibinabo feel safe. They exchanged a few more personal information, Ibinabo careful not to reveal much. The two girls walked home together, talking about their lives, their struggles and their dreams. Ibinabo felt a warmth in her heart that she had not felt in a long time. For the first time, she had found someone who did not judge her by her appearance. Ibinabo and Ebiere became inseparable. They walked to school together, shared their lunches, and spent their afternoons at each other's homes. Ebiere's mother welcomed Ibinabo warmly, and they often shared stories and laughter over simple meals. Despite the continued mockery from other students, Ibinabo felt stronger with Ebiere by her side. Ebiere was fiercely protective of her, and the other students soon learned not to mess with Ibinabo when Ebiere was around. One day, as they sat under a tree during lunch, Ibinabo hesitated before speaking. "There is something I need to tell you, Ebiere." Ebiere looked at her curiously. "What is it?" Ibinabo took a deep breath. "I have an autoimmune disease. That is why I look and smell the way I do. It is not something I can help, and it's been really hard for me. My parents have tried everything, but nothing seems to work." Ebiere reached out and took Ibinabo's hand. "I am so sorry, Ibinabo, but it does not change how I feel about you. You are my friend and I am here for you no matter what." Tears welled up in Ibinabo's eyes. She had never had someone accept her so completely before. "Thank you, Ebiere. You do not know how much that means to me." She felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long while. With Ebiere by her side, she felt that anything was possible. As they walked back to class, Ibinabo knew that she had found someone truly special. She wondered if Ebiere could be one of the people her father had wanted her to find. Ibinabo's routine began to stabilize. Every day after school, she will help her grandmother with chores and then visit Ebiere. One afternoon, as she was helping her grandmother cook, a young boy arrived at their house. He was small and thin, with worn-out clothes and a humble demeanor. "Ibinabo, this is Olotu," her grandmother said with a smile. "He has been helping me with my farm for years. He is a good boy and works very hard." They exchanged pleasantries and began to chat. As they talked, Ibinabo learned that Olotu was an orphan who made a living by working on other people's farms, although he usually helped Ibinabo's mother free of charge. He had no family and no means to attend school. Despite his hardships, he had a gentle spirit and a kind heart. Over the following weeks, Olotu visited more often, and three of them, Ibinabo, her grandmother and Olotu would always chat heartily. Ibinabo enjoyed his company and admired his hardworking nature. She began to see him as a younger brother, someone she could protect and care for. One day, as they were all sitting together in the kitchen, Ibinabo asked, "Olotu, have you ever thought about going to school?" Olotu looked down at his hands. "I have thought about it, but I cannot afford it. I have to work to survive." Ibinabo's heart ached for him. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more she could do for him. She wondered if Olotu could be the second person her father had wanted her to find. The more she got to know him, the more certain she became. Ibinabo's friendship with Ebere and Olotu grew stronger with each passing day. They became her pillars of support and she cherished the time they spent together. But as the end of her year in the village approached, she knew she had to be sure of their loyalty. One day, she decided to test their friendship. She began to withdraw from them, avoiding their company and acting distant. She stopped visiting Ebere after school and she did not wait for her in the mornings. She also stopped chatting with Olotu whenever he came around to help. Both Ebere and Olotu were confused and hurt by Ibinabo's sudden change in behavior. Ebere tried to talk to her, but Ibinabo brushed her off with vague excuses. Olotu also noticed the distance, but he did not press her, though he often looked at her with concern. Despite her coldness, none of them gave up on her. Ebere continued to look out for Ibinabo at school, stepping in whenever the other students tried to bully her. Olotu still showed up at her grandmother's house, doing his work quietly and patiently waiting for Ibinabo to open up to him again. One day, as Ibinabo sat outside her house deep in thought, Olotu appeared holding a small calabash filled with herbs. He approached her hesitantly, his eyes filled with concern. "Ibinabo," he began softly, "I know you have been feeling down and I want to help. I have prepared some herbs that I think might help with your condition." Ibinabo looked at him surprised. "Herbs? How did you know how to make this?" Olotu smiled shyly. "I learned a lot about natural remedies from my parents before they passed. These herbs are good for cleansing the body. I think they might help with your weight gain and body odor." Touched by his thoughtfulness, Ibinabo nodded. "Thank you, Olotu. I will give it a try." As Olotu prepared the tea, Ibinabo felt a sense of peace. She realized that both Ebere and Olotu had passed her test. They cared for her unconditionally and she knew that they were the ones her father had spoken of in his will. Ibinabo began drinking the herbal tea Olotu had prepared. She was skeptical at first, but to her amazement, she started noticing changes in her body. Over the next few weeks, she began to lose weight and her body odor gradually disappeared. It was as if the herbs were working magic on her, something she had never experienced with any of the treatments that her parents had tried before. As Ibinabo stood in front of a small mirror in her grandmother's house one day, she could not believe her eyes. She had lost a significant amount of weight and her skin looked clearer than it ever had. She turned to her grandmother with tears in her eyes. "Grandma, look at me, I am changing," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Her grandmother smiled. "Yes, my child, you look better. Olotu's herbs are truly special." Ibinabo was grateful that she met Ebere and Olotu, as their love and care had given her strength to believe in herself again. As the time drew near for her to return to the city, Ibinabo decided it was time to reveal her true identity to her friends. She needed them to know who she really was and why she had come to the village. That evening, She invited Ebere and Olotu to her grandmother's house. They sat together in the small living room and Ibinabo spoke. "I need to tell you both something," she began, her voice steady. "I have not been completely honest about who I am." Ebere and Olotu exchanged worried glances but remained silent, waiting for her to continue. She then went ahead to reveal her true identity and her mission to the village. Ebere and Olotu stared at her in stunned silence. Ibinabo then apologized for not being completely honest with them, then waited to see their reactions. For a moment, there was silence as Ebere and Olotu tried to process what Ibinabo had said. Then Ebere reached out and took Ibinabo's hand. "You are like a sister to me, Ibinabo. I do not care about the money, I care about you." Olotu nodded in agreement. "You have always been kind to me even before I knew who you were. I would be honored to be your brother." Ibinabo's tears flowed freely now, but they were tears of joy. They embraced each other. Ibinabo knew that her father would be proud of the choice she had made. With her decision made, it was time for Ibinabo to return to Port Harcourt and finalize the adoption process. She had already informed her mother and her grandmother. She also broke the news to Ebere and Olotu. "I am leaving soon, but do not worry, I am taking both of you with me. You will live with me in the city and we will be a family. My father's lawyer will handle all the legalities. We will be siblings in every way that matters." Ebere and Olotu were overwhelmed with emotions. They had never imagined such a turn of events in their lives. It was a dream come true. When the day of their departure arrived, the entire village gathered to see them off. Many were still in shock, having learned of Ibinabo's true identity. Some were regretful of how they had treated her, while others wished her well. As the car pulled away from the village, Ibinabo looked out of the window, reflecting on the journey she had taken. She had come to the village as a test, but she was living with something far more valuable than wealth. She was living with a family. Back in Port Harcourt, the adoption process was swift. Ebere and Olotu were officially recognized as Ibinabo's siblings, and they moved into her luxurious home. They marveled at the grandeur of the city and the comfort of their new lives. Ibinabo's mother welcomed them with open arms, grateful for the love and support they had given her daughter. The three siblings quickly settled into their new life, attending a prestigious school together and exploring the opportunities that their new status afforded them. Despite their new wealth, Ebere and Olotu remained grounded, never forgetting the lessons they had learned in the village. They continued to support each other, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Ibinabo, now healthier and more confident, often thought of her father and the challenge he had set before her. She knew that he had given her the greatest gift, a chance to find true love and friendship. As always, this story offers several valuable lessons. 1. The importance of genuine relationships. The story emphasizes that true friendship and love are not based on wealth, status, or appearances, but on the genuine care and support people offer each other. Ibinabo's journey to find two people who would care for her without knowing about her wealth highlights the value of authentic connections. 2. The power of kindness and acceptance. Ebere and Olotu exemplify the power of kindness and acceptance. They embraced Ibinabo without judgment, proving that kindness can have a profound impact on someone's life. Their acceptance played a crucial role in Ibinabo's physical and emotional transformation. 3. Family is more than blood. The story shows that family is not just about blood relations, but about the bonds we form with those who truly care for us. Ibinabo's decision to make Ebere and Olo to her siblings demonstrates that love and loyalty define family more than genetics do. Overall, the story encourages readers to value authentic relationships, remain resilient in the face of adversity, and recognize that kindness, humility, and love are the true measures of a rich life. Please subscribe to my channel because I am bringing more thrilling and captivating stories your way. Also, like, comment, and share this video. Until I come your way next time, remain blessed.